Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Friday, the 23rd of May, which makes this the news for Thursday, May the 22nd, day 1184 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 coming to you from Kyiv, this major European capital currently under siege. I see some of the peeps are coming in. Effing hell, I haven't seen you in a dog's age, man. How you living? G2, Mike Kelly, Chef Deb. Hey, Anthony, Tommy Tom. Hey, Ron. G2, Parda. Parda's here. Greetings, Holly. Effin' Hell's got one of the best handles on the tickety-tock, in my opinion. Definitely. Hey, Mike now. Hey, Addie. How's everybody doing tonight? There's Nightshade. Hey, Michael Boucher. There's my buddy Bobby, Bernard, Bjorn. It's all bees today. All the bees are here. Hey, Courtney Davis. Hey, Lars. How's everybody doing tonight? It's Thursday. It's almost, well, here it's actually technically Friday now. Sweden is in the house. Bjorn is here. Nice to see you, pal. Hey, Chris Carter. There's Chris Carter, longtime friend of this channel. And a member of the Patreon. And it reminds me that tonight's sponsor is another longtime friend of the channel and the Patreon, Eli. So if anybody sees Eli around, thank her very much for me and for all of us. Hey, Simon. Bobby, that's exactly what I said. Where has Effin' Hell been? I see the comments, I see the likes, but I don't think I've had a direct message from you or talked to you in feels like a dog's age. Hey, Sophia. Hey, It's a New Dawn. And It's a New Dawn reminds me that, guys, it's gotten harder. Inflation, blah, blah, blah. And a whole bunch of new people stood up and sponsored lives in the past week and upcoming. So Suzanne from New Zealand, Jax, Ted Greenhow, who am I forgetting now? Oh, Joshua Lee. A bunch of new people have stood up, and it's really gratifying to me. I deeply appreciate it. If you've been watching this channel for some time and you've never sponsored a live, maybe consider doing that. Or if you haven't joined the Patreon, maybe consider doing that. I do appreciate it. So guys, we are 1,184 days into this war, and the Russians are crazy. They're nutso. We talked last night about how in a meeting of governors, somebody asked Putin, how much of Sumy should we take? We have Sergei Lavrov talking about taking Sumy City. No, I'm sorry. That was Medinsky. That was Medinsky down at the Istanbul talks, talking about taking the Sumy Oblast to have a sanitary zone against Russia. And this is in spite of the fact that the Russians lost 62,000 men in Kursk. That's as many as they have there now. That's 124,000 men poured into Kursk to dislodge 18,000 Ukrainians, at best. At best. So not only are they talking as if they can afford to open another front, which they can't. It will be the end of them. It will overextend this army if they try to do what they are talking about doing. And what it appears that they are trying to do. That is open a brand new front in the Sumy Oblast and Kharkiv. It's nutso. You want to talk about nutso? The comments of this one general, wait, I have his name here. Uralev, General Uralev, said that Russia needs to prepare for large-scale war. Are you ready with this? For this? With Europe, Asia, Africa, and the United States. These people are fucking delusional. They can't take on Ukraine. And they are talking about, in their propaganda, they are talking about going to war with the world. Now, they don't have anything to worry about with the United States anymore because that's in the hands of a Kremlin creature, a Putin puppet, in the re-election of this malign foreign actor, Donald Trump. Make no mistake. So the USA is not going to give Russia any trouble. If anything, if Trump can help Russia, he's going to. As we saw this week, as he abandoned all his bullshit tough talk about sanctions on Russia, abandoned it for the simple reason that he now, what he said was, it would keep the Russians from talking if we put sanctions on them. The reality is, he knows that Putin doesn't want peace. Putin can't afford peace. Trump said in a call to European leaders that he no longer believes that Trump wants peace. And yet, in the press, he's telling the American people, oh, I'm not going to put sanctions on Russia because they're negotiating now for peace. The lies, the constant bullshit from this administration will choke any rational person that tries to understand it. As far as Putin goes, he cannot afford to stop this war. It is the only thing keeping the economy propped up. It's the only thing. And then there is the cognitive dissonance of the Russian people. For 4 years now, they have been going on 4 years. They have been fed a constant diet of the special military operation is needed. The special military operation is an existential fight against the collective West for the success of the Russian people and our security. The special military operation must end with Russia's goals accomplished, our security guarantees in place, and a greater union state. They have been fed these lies and bullshit for so long that if Putin doesn't deliver them, they will tear him apart. And that's not a metaphor. That's what the Russians do to their failed dictators. And Putin is on the verge of failure. On the verge of failure. Now, you might remember last night on the subject of Russia on the verge of failure. You might remember last night I had to walk back my comments about the launch of an ICBM, the so-called test launch of an ICBM. In response to that, somebody sent me a link to an article that quoted Putin as saying the test launch was happening. So the source for the information about the test launch of the YARS RS-24 intercontinental ballistic missile is in fact Vladimir Putin himself. That's where we get this information. So the fact that no missile was launched on Sunday night, though a missile test was scheduled, says that the test failed for some reason. We don't know the reason. I would like to know the reason. But it goes to the point that autocracies that punish everyone that disagrees with the dear leader are doomed to failure because the dear leader doesn't know everything. No one knows everything. And you have to, if you want to create excellence, you have got to live in a world where people tell you you are wrong when you are fucking wrong. And in these autocratic systems, there's no room for that. So they fail. Just like we saw the failure of the North Korean Navy today. Did you see this? They just built a brand new 5,000-ton destroyer, right? They're getting ready to launch it. Kim Jong-un himself is there, overseeing the panorama of this spectacle, the launch of the latest, greatest, newest, most modern North Korean warship. And when they go to put it in the water, the keel gets in the water, but the bow stays on land. The whole ship twists like a slinky, and the hull is ripped apart. Now, Kim Jong-un was said to be incandescent, right? Like he was just so furious that flames were shooting from the side of his head. Anyway, these systems that prejudice anyone with a view different from the dear leaders as being traitors. I mean, you just know every single person on that engineering team in North Korea was up against a wall an hour later. It's a failure, right? And look, I'm not saying that the United States doesn't have our failures too. ICE is the greatest one of them right now. But overall, in institutional democracies where you have real innovation taking place, the only way you get real innovation is to say to your detractors, prove me wrong. Here's what I did. This is what I'm doing and why I do it. And I can tell you that the way that you're doing it will lead to this result. For those of you who are stuck in these situations where you know what's gonna fucking happen and people don't listen to you anyway, when their failures are apparent to them, the best thing to say, I've just learned this myself, I'm trying to be a better person. The best thing to say to them is that this outcome was predicted early on. It's much better. This outcome was predicted early on. It is so much better than I fucking told you so. If you would have just listened to me, you morons. I get a lot of hate for that. Anyway. So the North Koreans saw a 5,000-ton warship twist itself into knots rather than get launched. Breaching the hull, Kim Jong-un has issued orders for immediate repairs and given the engineering crews very short timelines. Experts in the West are saying that's never going to happen. And so maybe some of the best minds in North Korea got lined up against a brick wall today. And they're not going to be there. So guess what? Now the third, fourth string of minds is coming in. It's not the way to do business. It's not the way to get things done. It's always going to be a failure. And that's why democracy and human rights, countries that actually appreciate human rights and the due process of law, are always going to be richer, more advanced, and have a higher standard of living. If you look at do yourself a favor. Google map of countries where you can drink the water. Then Google a list of countries that Russia thinks are its enemies. There is a near one-to-one correlation between them. That is not a coincidence, because where an honest respect for your neighbors begins is in saying that you are willing to pay taxes so that everybody has fresh drinking water and an indoor toilet. That is the place where respect for our neighbors begins. And if you are not in a country where you can drink the water, then it's likely that the people in charge are ripping you off in every possible way. Oh, yeah, Russell, you are not kidding. You know, every night for the last almost 2 years now, right, I get on here on the live and I give you the statistics for overnight drone strikes against Ukraine, right? Tonight on that subject, all I'm going to say is that the Ukrainians shot down 85% of them. Incredible, almost 85%. It was like 84.8 or something, right? It was beautiful, right? Good job to the Ukrainians. And instead, I want to talk about the drone strikes in Russia. Because according to the Russian MOD last night, the Russians shot down, oh wait, wrong page, sorry. The Russians shot down, The Russians claim that they shot down 105 Ukrainian drones last night. They claim they shot down 105. Now, looking at some of the radar telemetry that was made available by the Air Force, it looks like the Ukrainians probably fired somewhere between 125 and 150 attack drones at the territory of the Russian Federation last night. 35 drones alone are claimed to have been shot down around Moscow. Moscow was under an air alert. The airports were shut down. And as I said, the Russians claim to have shot down 35 drones around Moscow. Just around Moscow. We saw real hits in Tula against the Bozalt defense plant. I guess these guys make RPG grenade launchers, mortars, drone warheads. So they're an ammunition and weapons plant that provides services to the military-industrial complex. This is in Tula, which is about 300 kilometers, about 180 miles from the Ukrainian border. Now, we're unaware, we don't have a damage assessment yet in on that. But locals are reporting numerous explosions at the plant and a large fire on the territory. Hey, Van, how you living, pal? They're working on it, Scotty. They are sure as hell working on it, pal. There were also confirmed strikes, but we don't have details, inside of Belgorod. We don't know what was hit, but there's a large fire burning about 30 kilometers, 20 miles inside of Belgorod. So it does look like the Russians managed to shoot down the majority. If these numbers are right, and they shot down 105, it's probably about a 66% interception rate. Pretty good for the Russians, right? Pretty good for the Russians. Zelensky says that the Ukrainian armed forces are still active inside Russian territory in both Belgorod and Kursk, according to his nightly report tonight. He did not mention Bryansk. Remember, we've had lots of rumors that there is some kind of fighting or cross-border raid happening in Bryansk. We saw that announcement from the governor's office that road closures, blockades are preventative measures. They are not because Ukrainians are fighting on the territory of Bryansk, which really seemed like a weird preventive measures of what exactly? So we're watching for more news about what's happening in Bryansk. Could be a feint by the Ukrainians just to pin more Russian troops inside Russia and try to further delay any scaled attack on Sumy, where currently we're experiencing yet another internal refugee crisis, as 54,000 Ukrainians are currently under mandatory evacuation order from Sumy Oblast. A government official was hit with a drone in Kursk, only wounded, though. Now, I don't know about that story, Nightshade. I don't know if that was a Ukrainian government official or, oh, I'm sorry, it was in Kursk. I'm sorry, in Kursk. So it was a Russian, a government official. What I do know happened today was that down in Kherson, four of our boy Kadirov's men, all of whom are known and indicted for war crimes, their car blew up somewhere in occupied Kherson, and then the car kept exploding. Apparently, they were using the car to transport ammunition or weapons of some type. And so when the car bomb went off, the ammunition in the vehicle sparked several secondary explosions. These are four of the Akhmat guys, the Chechens, the Kadyrovs, the Kadyrov, or the TikTok Brigade, as they're often called, some of the most evil, sadistic sons of bitches on the planet. No one is taking credit for this car bombing. However, on the subject of the bombing, the GUR official statement read, "There will be just retribution for every war crime committed against the Ukrainian people." It's a good line, isn't it? It's full of hope and future thinking. There will be just retribution for every war crime committed against the Ukrainian people. They could have gone on to quote Budanov there and say, no matter where they run. Now, you might have seen that a former Ukrainian official was executed gangland style in Spain. There's no word on what that's about. Given who he was, I think it's far more likely that it was a mafia-style execution, probably over unpaid debts or some other machismo grudge of the gangland set, rather than an official operation of the Ukrainian government. He doesn't fit the profile for who the Ukrainians are going after. Not as far as I'm aware. So it'll be interesting to see how the Spanish investigation plays out there and who the Spanish believe was behind it and why. Jim, you have a funny sense of humor, buddy. How are those gas prices doing, huh? They're really coming down, right? Not. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, so the polls are paying attention, right? They're giving us some trouble on the border, I got to admit that. But up in the Baltic, some Polish authorities, it's not clear from the reporting, or maybe my translator is not doing a good job, whether these were Navy or Polish Coast Guard or some other branch of Polish military. I don't know who was responsible for the attempted interdiction. But some officials of the Polish government became aware of a Russian Shadow Fleet tanker that was behaving suspiciously in the vicinity of an undersea cable from Sweden to Poland. They attempted to interdict the ship. The ship fled, and it fled to a Russian port. The identity of the ship is, to the best of my knowledge, unknown at this time. It was not flying under any flag, not even a flag of convenience. But it goes to the point that amid rising tensions, as Russia keeps saying stupid things like, we should prepare for war with Europe, Asia, Africa, and the United States? Like, what world are you living in? As they build Potemkin-style military installations along the Finnish border, attempting to intimidate the Finns I mean, have you met a Finn? Not easy to intimidate. I posted that about the buildup by the Finnish border, and more than one Finn replied, "It's okay. We're used to it. There's always 600,000 Russians right on our border. They're just 6 feet down." So the Finns are completely nonplussed by all of this. No, that's the wrong word. Sorry. If English is not your first language, we have this terrible word, nonplussed, and it means the opposite of what you would think it would mean. So, wrong word to use. They are not fazed by these claims of the Russians. Okay. What else I got? I think that's it for top line news. Yes. Okay, so questions, comments. Jason Momoa, I'll tell you something. In Dune, part 1, Jason Momoa was the only one who lived by the rules of the world that Frank Herbert created in the book. Jason Momoa lived it. I look like Jason Momoa. Phew, I wish I had his money. Anyway, I wouldn't keep having to beg Cynthia for grocery money. Oh my God. Did you read the book, Bobby? You gotta read the book. The films will never capture the world that Frank Herbert builds in the book. Is unbelievable. You might check, Bobby, go through my books. There might be a copy of Dune in there. If there is, take it. It'll change your life. As a book, it changed my life. So, Mel, the Germans under Mers have a new philosophy. Shh. Loose lips sink ships. Plans love silence. The Germans are no longer disclosing what weapons they are sending to Ukraine. So Merz just said this week, now get this, because I think this is very important. Merz said this week, the first thing he said was, we're not disclosing anything anymore. It's all a secret. And we can send whatever the fuck we want to Ukraine. And then when Ukraine gets it, they can tell the world about it if they want. That's their business. But Merz was very clear. Out of Berlin, mum's the word. He then went on to say, we will fulfill every promise we have made. Now that sure sounds like it's reinforcing the commitment to send tourists here. Yeah, Sammy, it is smart. You're right. I agree. Sign out the way they... Yeah, Hardly says, Merz said, let the Russians find out what they sent when they receive it. And it's something like that, yeah. Yeah, Trump, please, Bobby. So for all the Patreon guys, I've switched gears a little bit. Because, I came here to try to understand how we got Trump in the first place. To try to understand the Russians, who I believe are absolutely behind him. And that was the biggest reason I came here, to try to learn about the Russians from the Ukrainians. And I've learned a lot, I'll tell you. And I'm trying to synthesize that now into an understanding of how we got to Donald Trump. And so in the next week or so, expect the first installment in that to be published on the Patreon. Because I think I have something to say now about how we got here, how this is all even possible. I should see her husband as That's not just the Russian Orthodox Church, Nightshade. That's the letter of Paul to the Corinthians. I think it's Corinthians 1. maybe Corinthians 2. Or as Donald Trump said, Corinthians the second. It was in Corinthians the second. It's one of my favorite, in the Bible. Corruption and propaganda. That is how we got him, yes. We did get Trump by mass ignorance. But that mass ignorance was flamed. No, the American people do not want Donald Trump. Some of the American people want the lies he told them he would bring. But anyone who's paying attention can see that his playbook is not his own. And his playbook is not intended to get the American people to where they want to be. He's already gone from, I will lower grocery prices on my first day, to you can expect some pain for a while, to, oh, did you want toys for your children at Christmas? I'm sorry, the shelves are going to be empty because I've wrecked global trade in an unnecessary tariff war that will only make us all poor and make everything more expensive, which is his plan. That's his desire. We had to put up with 4 years being lied to and people stealing our money and wasting. Yes. And then they voted for 4 more years of it to bring him back after we defeated him and brought in an administration that worked for the American people. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it didn't start with Melania. It started with the first wife that he bought from the Russians. What was her name? Ivana or whatever? Okay. Do you think Putin will survive when Ukraine wins? No. There are no retirement plans for failed dictators. His own people will eat his heart. String him up from a lamppost in Red Square. He'll be done. That's the other reason he cannot give up here. They will literally tear him apart. Did the House ramrod that bill through? It'll never pass the Senate. I mean, there's no way Republican senators are going to cut Medicare and Medicaid in favor of tax cuts for the wealthy. That's not going to happen. I'm with you, Anthony, Tommy, Tom. We should have trusted Ukraine at the start and given them everything they needed. Yes, MJS, the North Korean ship sank. We talked about it. Even the Pope's brother is in MAGA. Yes, but the Pope isn't. Trump is for Trump and Russia. You are right, Rosie. As of today, it cleared the first part to raise more taxes. Yeah. Yeah, G2, it's a bad scene right now. Russia's fielding nuclear-tipped air-to-air missiles per U.S. intelligence. Nightshade, you have no idea how happy that makes me. Every innovation they try to create literally blows up in their faces. It makes me so happy to hear that they are fielding nukes on their planes. Yes, it does. So Epic's Fort asks, what's Putin's endgame? And that's the whole problem. Putin doesn't have an endgame. He doesn't have an off-ramp. He doesn't know what to do but keep grinding forward. It's all his brain can think. The problem is, he's not, like so many Russians, he is not a chess player. or rather, unlike so many Russians, he is not a chess player. He's a judo guy. Judo and chess are completely different things. Judo, you look for the opportunity where your opponent is off balance or weak, and that's when you strike. And that's Putin's whole MO. He thought he could take Ukraine in 3 days. He was wrong. He doesn't have any other plan, so he doesn't know what else to do. No clue. And this pablum he's been feeding the Russian people to keep support for the war on is shortly going to be exposed as a pack of fucking lies. And the failure of Russia here will be state-ending, I believe. Not just end Putin. It'll end the Russian Federation as we know it. There are too many people who are tired of living under the yoke of the Moscow regime. And when Moscow doesn't have the strength to send soldiers in to put them down, they're gonna stand up. Now, how long that's gonna take is anybody's guess. I always said that it was 36 months from the fall of the Berlin Wall to the complete unraveling of communism and the USSR. So if we think about it in the same kind of political context, we should expect to see the Russian Federation, the dissolution of the Russian Federation, say within 36 months of the collapse of the Russian war machine in Ukraine. So about the time the Russian war machine collapses utterly in exhaustion and blood, start counting, because I would say the Russian Federation doesn't have another 36 months. They gave a wife to Trump because no sensible American woman would want to marry him. You are correct, ma'am. Impeach Trump, damn right. Trump must go, hell yeah. Putin is down to 2 doubles that I can tell. Oh yeah? Did one of the doubles disappear on us? Corey says Trump, best president ever. Yeah, as long as you don't have any ability to do critical thinking or act in your own interest. As long as you're just a member of the cult and you're a terrible person, an awful human being. Did you see what he did to the South African president? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, the way he attacked Zelensky was rude, crude, and unsophisticated. Certainly unpresidential-like. But to dare show to the president of South Africa a thoroughly debunked bullshit movie about a white genocide in South Africa, I mean, you just want to broadcast to the universe, I am the biggest moron that ever lived. No one should listen to anything I have to say. And then you have idiots like this maggot in here talking about how Trump is the greatest president in history. Just get the fuck out of here. Literally, get the fuck out of here. Thanks, Dre. Dre, that reminds me there's a reggae night on Saturday. I should go to that. Apparently, some former Kremlin gave out the number of Russian losses. Was it about 1 million? Oh, yeah, Bernard. Did you see what he said to him? He said, I'm sorry, I do not have a plane to give to you. I'm sorry, I don't have the money to buy you off, is what he was saying right to his face in front of the press. Unbelievable. Several hundred thousand unalived, right? What about wounded? Yeah, Dot, it's just basic diplomacy. Yeah, I mean, it's just basic diplomacy. Come on. Trump has no respect at all. Former Russian security advisor said several hundred K. So the best estimates we have on KIA from sources outside Ukraine is from the British, the UK Intelligence Directorate, which says, if I'm not mistaken, the last quote was 240,000 KIA and roughly about 760 wounded. Well, here's the thing, Lair, about how much support Donald Trump actually has. only 43% of the American public showed up to vote in the last election. And unfortunately, the Republicans vote. There are more people in the Democratic Party, but they're too busy getting high and fucking and actually living a good life, not caring about other people. And they forget to vote. It happened to me. I was shacked up one presidential election with this brunette I had just met. We were in my RV, like we didn't leave for like a week. And voting was in the middle of that. And we just didn't get to the polls. We were having a good time. So that's the problem on the Democratic side, I think. Harris was a great choice. I voted for Harris. I don't see what the problem with Harris was. If anything, I didn't like her as a prosecutor. I thought she was too hard-ass. You know what it was in the last one? In the last presidential election? Nobody believed that Donald Trump could come back again. Same thing with Hillary. There was too much overconfidence that reason would prevail. Jesus, they published Project 2025. Nobody's going to vote for that, right? What kind of world are we living in? That they're going to vote to make The Handmaid's Tale a how-to manual. Calling me Jason Momoa is not the insult you think it is. That guy was with what's-her-name, the chick from The Cosby Show. Denise Huxtable, right? Was it Denise Huxtable? One of them, whichever. Super hot. He's a movie star. What are you going to do? And Polynesian. Lisa Bonet. What was that movie she played? It was like a satanic movie, like with Denzel Washington, I want to say. Incredible. Evidence is showing that the votes didn't add up. Starlink is a manipulation tool. I mean, Larry, that doesn't even make sense. Starlink is not connected to the voting machines. The voting machines have no internet connections. They are standalone devices to prevent tampering. You have to physically deal with the machine. So none of that makes any sense. Do you want to be friends? That's the way I remember chairs. Do you mean Cheers? George Wendt died from Cheers. Norm. Sad to see him go. I went to college with one of his nephews, actually. I think he means cheers. Hey, Damon Brooks. You in the Caribbean by any chance? Yeah, sorry. I remember the show Cheers, like the show Friends. Oh, the show Friends. I never watched Friends. I mean, I'm aware of it, of course, but I've never watched it. What do I think of Finland securing the border? The same thing I think of Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, withdrawing from the Ottawa Convention so that they can mine the shit out of their border with Russia and Belarus. Good for them. That's a reasonable thing to do. Completely. Jason Sudeikis is Wentz' nephew. That is not who I went to college with. I didn't know that the Sudeikises and the Wentz were related. I was not aware of that. Okay, guys, we got about 10 minutes left. What else you want to talk about? Big thanks to Eli, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Thank her if you see her around. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and to Jay and Travis, the moderators. Big thanks to all the new people that stepped up and sponsored a live lately. Really appreciate your involvement and making the commitment to help keep me in Ukraine and keep these reports, like somebody said, these near real-time reports, right? Literally, being here makes a difference. It gives me access to people that nobody else has access to. And very often, the reports come out in near real time because the military reports on them here, and I'm translating all those military communiques to the public every day. And so it goes right out over TikTok to you. Angel Heart, that was it, Eric. Angel Heart, I loved that movie. It was Denzel, right? Wasn't it Denzel and Lisa Bonet? I feel like it was. Maybe I'm wrong about that, though. It's been a long time since I saw that movie. Wonderful, wonderful, atmospheric, kind of Nolans, Bayou, Cajun, you gonna die kind of movie, you know. It's a good one. Thanks, Bernard. No Denzel, not Denzel. Okay. I don't know what that means. I think Yandex is failing you there, Dre. So big thanks to all the new people that stepped up and sponsored a live. If you want to sponsor a live, the PayPal is in the description, especially our old friends like Fitz and Eli and Cynthia, and then our new friends who are first-time live sponsors. Samso, Jax, Ted Greenow, Joshua Lee, and again, Suzanne from New Zealand. And again, tonight our sponsor is Eli. Thank you, Eli. Was it De Niro? God, I can't remember. You know, man, I'm going to have to go look it up now. Because as I remember that film, I really enjoyed it. But I can't remember who was in it. It's got to be 20 years since I've seen that film. Thank you, Joshua Lee. There's Joshua Lee right now. Mickey Rourke. It was Mickey Rourke and Lisa Bonet. Yeah. Hey, Van. De Niro was in that? De Niro and Mickey, says Roy Daniels. Now I'm really curious. God, remember when Mickey Rourke had a career? Huh. Oh, I'm getting it confused with Al Pacino as Satan in, you know the one, with Keanu Reeves. Devil's Advocate. That's it, Bobby. That was a good movie. Not the best devil movie, in my opinion. In my opinion, that would be Witches of Eastwick. Witches of Eastwick with Cher and, oh, who else was in that? Susan Sarandon. And it wasn't Melanie Griffith. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anything else on Ukraine, kids? What else is going on? What else is going on with Ukraine? It was definitely not Bette Midler. You're thinking of Hocus Pocus. I don't know that movie, Roy. I'll have to take a look. I can guess from the title who gets met at the crossroads. Why can't Putin just lie like always and say his military objectives have been met? That is a great question, Nicola. He could. The problem is there's still Ukrainian troops in Kursk and Belgorod and maybe Bryansk. And the word of that will get around. If you have refugees fleeing the fighting inside your country, people know you're lying to them. He controls the state media. He controls the narrative. He could make the claim. But what happens if he loses those territories in military conflict with the Ukrainians in the meantime? And then there's a refugee crisis inside Russia, as all those Russians who believed the advertising for homes in Mariupol and ran down there to buy them are suddenly refugees again inside Russia. That's a very delicate situation. The Russians know they're being lied to. They tell themselves there's nothing they can do about it. It doesn't matter. Just move forward as best you can. But I do wonder, there is a limit to that, what kind of cognitive dissonance they can live with. And like in every autocracy, when the pressure between what you're told is real and what is actually real becomes too great, that's when the social contract is broken and the system snaps. So we're not quite there yet with the Russians. Remember, the Russians have deep pockets. At the start, well, say a year before the war started, the Russians had in the National Wealth Fund about 500 tons of gold. And that's about what they've had in the National Wealth Fund for some time, about 500 tons. They got it up to 700 tons before the war, so they had some reserve, some buffer, right? So they added 200 tons for some buffer. Do you know how much is left today? Just the buffer. Just the 200 tons they put in right before the start of the war. The base, the 500 tons they always kept on hand, is gone. Gone. Most of it to Iran to buy Shaheds. So I don't know, Nicola. We'll see where his lies get him over the coming months. If Germany sent 5,000 soldiers to Estonia, it's because they're part of the NATO training there. They're doing exercises and training in Estonia right now. And the Russians are making a fuss about it, blah, blah, blah. Even cattle turn during a stampede, yes. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Did you see the kids in Mariupol trying to sell Russians the new homes they've built? Oh, yeah, the bloggers. Yeah. There's been so in the temporarily occupied territories, the Russians have destroyed everything. There is an image campaign inside Russia to rehabilitate this notion of the temporarily occupied territories as destroyed, which they are, and as Russian, which they are not. And part of that effort is a bunch of blogger kids and TikTokers and YouTubers who are doing state-sponsored propaganda right? Sheer, unmitigated, unashamed Russian propaganda. That everything in Mariupol is great, everything is good, and yet we see videos of the condition of these brand new houses that were thrown together with ticky-tack and are literally falling apart before anybody's lived in them. And yet up in Siberia, they're selling mortgages at a very low rate to people for these newly constructed homes that are in the middle of toxic waste dumps. I mean, basically after an Iskander missile comes down, the solid fuel in that is so toxic and it's over everything. And then you've got all that burned plastic and rubber and rare earth and, lithium batteries and watches and clocks and everything. These cities are toxic. The rubble is a toxic waste dump. And the Russians are sticking ticky-tack A-frames up in front of them as if that's supposed to make it all better. It's insanity. It's absolute insanity. And the ad campaign is being led by a bunch of good-looking young Russian TikTokers and such. Do I think Putin will ever be held accountable? No, though it is my fondest wish that he be. Yeah, some of that gold definitely went to Kim. Definitely. Did you see where Trump refused to call Putin a war criminal at a G7 meeting? I didn't see that, Bobby, but I did see Marco Rubio refuse to call him a war criminal multiple occasions in front of testimony before Congress. Refused. How the Russians realize their fate is to be like North Korea if they continue. I don't know. You know what Lenin said, right? No, Stalin. It was Stalin. Stalin said the Russian people are like a chicken. You can pick them till they bleed, then throw them a few kernels of corn, and they will follow you anywhere. Putin has embraced Stalin as his kind of political godfather, rehabilitating his image in Russian media and reestablishing monuments to him, like the one they just put up, the bronze of Stalin's bust in Mariupol. So it's very hard to tell. Will there be busloads of Russians in Crimea? Yeah, that's what they're trying to do, definitely. They transplanted potatoes to Chernobyl to show it was safe. Oh my God. You guys know, right, that at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the Russians came in from up north in Belgrade. And so one of the first things you hit is, I forget the name of the town, something. But the town that Chernobyl was in, right? It's one of the first places you come to. So a bunch of Russians start digging trenches in the exclusion zone, stirring up and breathing in strontium-90, cesium. The worst kinds of things imaginable. They're all dead. Pripyat, Yakuba. They've 2 years later, that every one of them is dead from cancer or radiation poisoning. It's insanity. Yeah, it is time for me to go to sleep. It is 1 a.m. here, so that is it for us. Again, I want to thank Eli, the sponsor of tonight's live. I want to encourage other people to sponsor lives. I think right now I have live sponsors through Tuesday. So there's 3 days up for grabs next week. If anybody can sponsor a live, the PayPal is in the description. And if you don't follow me on the Patreon, please get yourself at least a free Patreon account. So thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server. And thanks to, good night. Thanks, Joe Jobman. Thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peters Peeps group, Jay and Travis, the moderator team. Thanks, guys. Make it a great day.